Let's tell you now about the city of Johannesburg. So it's given itself until 2030 to cut its reliance on Eskom. The mayor, Dr Mpho Phalatse, was addressing delegates as the city hosts its two-day Energy Indaba, aimed at coming up with solutions to the country's electricity crisis, especially for the city. That's where we find my colleague Malungelo, Booi, who's about to tell us about this energy mix that was spoken about and how the city plans to achieve this. Malu?
I'll tell you this, Duduzile, there's hundreds and hundreds of delegates really that are part of this Indaba. Interestingly enough, it's people that are in the energy sector. It includes experts, it includes academics, it includes business people who are actually invested in the renewable energy space that are part of this Indaba, trying to help the city of Johannesburg find its way out of its reliance on Eskom. Remember, the city of Johannesburg, or City Power, currently receives 90% of its energy from Eskom, and of course, because of the load shedding that we've been experiencing over the past few weeks, or even on the past few years, Duduzile, the city now says it's the right time that it moves away from relying heavily on Eskom. Let's take a listen at what the mayor, Dr Mpho Phalatse, told delegates.
The City of Johannesburg is indeed entering the most exciting energy era in our history. It's exciting because indications are that the city is positioning itself to become more energy independent with less reliance on Eskom for our power needs. Clean energy provided by independent power producers will not only improve the city's energy security, but also respond positively to the climate change imperative. The traditional power delivery model that the City of Johannesburg has been relying on is being disrupted by technological developments related to new systems. We cannot assume anymore that our power will solely be generated by Eskom. Instead, more and more alternative energy models have come through, and as the city, we're forced to recognize so-called embedded generation as a serious option.
Moving away really from relying on Eskom, the city of Johannesburg understands that this is going to be a costly exercise. In fact, according to the plan that City Power has presented to the mayor of the city of Johannesburg, they're saying that they would need about 26 billion rand to be able to successfully implement that plan and make sure that the city of Johannesburg does not heavily rely on Eskom. As you know, Duduzile, we've actually continued to experience load shedding, and I asked City Power CEO on the impact load shedding has had on their infrastructure and on City Power, and this is what she had to say to me.
About 2 months or so back, we had load shedding, and in the Waterport area, when electricity came back, when Eskom switched us back on, 5 mini-subs blew because of the inrush current. Now, 1 mini-sub cost us 500,000 rand. So it therefore means in a space of a minute, City Power lost 2.5 million rand in one suburb of Waterport. So you can imagine the cost of all of this. And it's also because it's compounded by the fact that our own infrastructure is old, which then talks to the 26 billion. Now, the other cost is also the fact that City Power, we run a very manual system as well, whereas Eskom is able to afford to switch on and off from their center because they've got visibility of the network. City Power does not have that. So we run a very manual system at City Power. They tell us, go switch there, go switch on there, switch off there. So we have to have our operators on the ground, which means our salary bill also skyrockets because it costs us in terms of overtime of our employees.
Acting City Power CEO there, Duduzile, explaining to us as journalists the impact load shedding has had on their infrastructure, but also on their staff members. Well, delegates will then continue really to debate and to discuss issues pertaining to energy and how Johannesburg can ultimately really limit its reliance on Eskom. Dudu?
Malungelo, Booi, thank you very much for that update.